Hi, I'm Susan Rutledge, and in this video I'm going to show you 10 different ways you can customize the same pattern brush in Adobe Illustrator and come up with all of these looks. The design I've created is this one right here. These are the CMYK colors I've used, and these are the measurements for each of the pieces that I've put together to make this design. Now we're going to move to a document where I already have the design, and I'll get the brushes panel. We'll come up to Window. Here's the brushes panel. It's keyboard shortcut F5. And this brings up the panel. Now you probably have more pattern brushes that came with Illustrator. I've deleted the ones I knew I wouldn't use. And I'm going to take this tab and drag and dock it next to the Layers tab on the right side of my workspace. Then I'll select the design and I'll go to the bottom bar of the brushes panel and click on the new brush icon, which brings up this little dialog box, and I'm going to choose pattern brush here and then say OK. Now this gives me the pattern brush options, and all I'm going to do is change the name, and we're going to go green brush 1 and say OK. And Illustrator creates and places the green 1 pattern brush in the brushes panel. Now to use the brush, I apply it to a stroke made with either a pencil tool or a pen tool, or create any objects that have strokes as well. Let's click on the artboard to deselect the design, and then I'm going to get the paintbrush tool, keyboard shortcut B, and I'll just draw out a little squiggly line, and Illustrator applies the pattern brush to that stroke. The first way to customize or change your pattern brush is to change its size. I'm going to get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and select my stroke, and then move over to the properties panel, and here we're going to change the weight of the stroke by just increasing it. I can make it as large as I want because this is a vector object, so I'm not going to lose any quality. But what if I want it smaller? I go back the other direction, and if I want it smaller than 1 point, I click on the pull down menu, and here I have 0.75, 0.5, 0.25, or I can highlight this value and type in whatever number I want. I'm going to type in 1.5 and then press the return key, and here I have a 1.5 point stroke, and that's how you customize your pattern brush by changing its size. The second way to customize your brush is by applying a width profile. We access the width profile by coming over and clicking on the word stroke, which opens up this little panel. Down at the bottom we see profile. The default setting is uniform, which is just a straight line, but on the pull down menu we have other choices. Now your choices will look different than mine because Illustrator comes with some I've deleted and I've added some, but let me just show you what happens here. I'll click here and Illustrator applies this profile, and you can see what a neat look we have. I'll come back down here and show you what the point looks like. Here's a half circle, and with the half circle it's similar to that first one, although it's really changing the inside part of the design. So this is a really cool way to make a fast change to customize your pattern brush. So I'm going to undo the moves and get back to the original stroke that we had. Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, and here we are here. But if you don't find a width profile that you want, you can always make one, and that is the third way to customize your pattern brush, and that's to use the width tool. It's located on the left toolbar. Here's what it looks like. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut, which is Shift W. You can see the width tool is active because I have that curvy line next to my cursor. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on how to use this tool because I have a video that explains that, and I'll leave a link to that tutorial at the end of this video. But basically, you take your cursor and you can place it on an anchor and pull away from the anchor and move around to change the width of your stroke, or you can click anywhere on the stroke, create your own anchor, and pull from there. If you don't like the results, all you have to do is click on the anchor and you can slide it around on that stroke, or click on the anchor and press the delete key. I'll undo these moves a few times, Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, and Command Z. And we have a little bit of a variation in the size here. And if I decide I like that design and I want to keep it for future use, then I can come back over to the width profile. Now, because I've used the width profile recently, it's showing up in the Properties panel, and I can click on the pull-down menu here. If you don't see that, just go back up to the stroke word, click here, and you'll be able to get it as well. In this profile area, I'll click on the pull-down menu, and all the way at the bottom is the little icon which allows you to add the shape that you've just created on the artboard to the profiles. So I'll click here. This opens up the variable width profile dialog box, and I'm going to just type in Susan's width and say OK. Now this new profile is added to the list, and if you hover over it, you can see the name right here, Susan's width. I'll click on the artboard to close that out, and I'm going to get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and we'll move on to the fourth way to change your pattern brush or customize it, and that's to use the flip options. Now there are a couple of ways to access these flip options. The first one is to go up to Brushes and double click on your brush, and notice that when I double clicked, immediately I lost that width profile here, but I have access to flip along and flip across. I'm going to cancel out here, and I'm going to undo the move, keyboard shortcut Command Z, because I want to show you how you can access those flip options without losing any options that you've already applied to your pattern brush. So I'll go back to the Properties panel, and because I have a pattern brush selected, I see the option brush here in the Properties panel. I'm going to come over to the right of the pull-down menu and click on this little icon right here, and that gives me the options to change just this object right here that's selected. And I can choose Flip Along. Flip Along makes a left to right change of the pattern brush, and Flip Across makes a top to bottom change of the pattern brush. I'm going to cancel out of this and delete the stroke and get the ellipse tool, keyboard shortcut L, and I'll drag out a circle, and then I'm going to drag out a smaller circle, and we'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. I'll select the outer circle, go to the Brushes panel, and apply the pattern brush to that one, and then do the same thing for this smaller circle. Let's center these up. I'll go to the Properties panel and click on the horizontal align center and the vertical align center. Then I want to change just the center circle. If I come up to the Brushes panel and I select the flip across there, I'm going to make changes to any application of that pattern brush on the artboard. But we know that if we come down here to the brush section of the Properties panel, click on this icon, we're going to change only the selected brush. So here when I choose flip across and say OK, I've got two different applications for the same pattern brush. And if we increase the size here, you're going to see this can be actually a kind of a cool look to have one flipped across. So that's the fourth way to customize your pattern brush. And let me delete this center one. And the fifth way to change your pattern brush is to add a stroke. Now I can't make the change yet from the Properties panel because I have a black stroke applied here and you don't see it on the pattern brush. That's because Illustrator has simply applied the design to that stroke to make it a pattern brush. So the only thing we can do here is change the size. Once I have the design the way I want it, I go up to Object, down to Expand Appearance. Now it's no longer a pattern brush applied to a circle, it's its own object. So I can come over to the Properties panel now and I can add a 1-point stroke. Let's go ahead and add a 2-point stroke. I'll click on the artboard to deselect it, and you see a nice crisp stroke on here. However, you see the pattern repeats showing up along this circle, and I don't want that. So I'm going to select the object and I'm going to ungroup it with the keyboard shortcut Shift Command G, and I'm going to have to do that a couple of times, so I'll use that same keyboard shortcut again, Shift Command G. I'll click on the artboard to deselect it, and now I can select individual pieces. I'm going to select all of the objects that are this green color, so I'll select one, hold down the Shift key so I can select multiples at the same time. And once I have all of them selected, I'll come to the Properties panel in the Pathfinder area, and I'm going to use this icon, which is Click to Unite. And you can see how quickly that changes. So let's do the same thing with this dark green line here. Unite that section. Then I'll get this tiny section. Now, and that will unite that. And that turned out really nice. So the fifth way to customize your pattern brush is to expand it and then add a stroke to it. But because you've expanded it and ungrouped it, it's going to be in a lot of little pieces. So be sure that you come back in and select everything and group it back with the keyboard shortcut Command G. Okay, I'll press the Delete key to remove that design and get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and I'm going to drag out a rectangle. Let's change this to a white fill. Then we'll talk about the sixth way to customize your pattern brush, and that's to choose an auto-generated corner tile. I'll go back to the Brushes panel and click on our green brush 1 to apply a pattern brush. Now I'm going to get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and drag this down a little bit. And notice that when Illustrator applied that pattern brush to the rectangle, it's also filled in the corners. Sometimes Illustrator doesn't do that on its own, but it will always auto-generate some options for you. And this is another way you can customize your pattern brush. So I'll double-click on the pattern brush, and let's turn our attention to these 5 bins right here. Now the second bin is what we call the side tile. This is the main repeating part of your design. What Illustrator did was it took the design I created and it places it end to end as many times as it needs to cover the stroke. But we also have an outer corner tile, which is the part that you'll see right here on the corner, and you have an inner corner tile, which would be a corner that is pointing into the center. Then you have start and end tiles, which we're not going to talk about in this video. But let's come back to the outer corner tile, because Illustrator always auto-generates 4 choices for you. I'm going to click on the pull-down menu. We have auto-centered, we have auto-between, auto-sliced, and because auto-sliced is highlighted, that's actually the choice Illustrator has made for us. And then there's auto-overlap. Now, most of the time, I avoid these bottom 2 choices and use either auto-centered or auto-between because these bottom 2 tend to be choppy. I can also move all the way up and I can choose none. But what I'm going to do is show you how you can customize the corners by choosing one of the other auto-generated choices. So let's click on auto-centered, and as I click on that and say OK, Illustrator is going to ask if I want to apply this to the strokes. I'm going to say yes, and we see a little bit of change here. Let's come back and look at the other ones. Click on the pull-down menu. Here is auto-between. Say OK, apply to strokes, and I think I actually like this choice the best. So that's the 6th way to customize your pattern brush. But sometimes you may not like the options that Illustrator has auto-generated for you. So the 7th way to customize your pattern brush is to create your own outer corner tile. I'll delete this rectangle and show you how to do that. I'm going to make a copy of the design. I'll select the design, hold down an Option key to make a copy and drag the first copy here. And then I'm going to make another copy. So I'll hold the Option key down again and I'm going to drag to the left. I want to drag in a horizontal line, so I'll hold the Shift key down. And when I see the word intersect, I'm going to release my mouse. And if you don't see the word intersect, come up to View, down to Smart Guides and turn those on, and they'll help you get a precise intersection. You can also use the keyboard shortcut Command U. Then I need to rotate this piece, so I'll get the Rotate tool, keyboard shortcut R, and I need to move the rotate ball from the center to the bottom right corner. So I'll place my cursor on the anchor and click down, and that moves the ball here. Then I'm going to begin to drag down. I'll hold the Shift key down, and that's going to snap these rotations at 45-degree angles, and when I get to 90 degrees, I'll release my mouse. Next, I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to deselect this left side. Then for my outer corner tile, I'll make it to line up with the outside edges of the left and the top sides of my repeating pattern. I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and let Smart Guides show me where the invisible intersection is for that top left anchor. Press down there with my mouse and drag down to the bottom right corner where the inside edges come together. Then I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V. Now I'm able to add whatever design I want in this corner piece, even one that will line up exactly with my repeating pattern. And I'll go into detail on how to do that in the next video. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to add a fill color here. So I'll move to the Properties panel, go to the color fill icon and choose black. And to add this corner piece to the pattern brush, I'll go over to the brushes panel, and here is our green brush 1. I'm going to grab this corner. I'll drag it over to the brushes panel, and when I'm on this left corner here, I'm going to press the option key down, and that's putting a highlight around the left bin, which is the outer corner bin. Then I'll release my mouse, and that opens up the pattern brush options dialog box, and we see Illustrator has in fact added the black corner to the outer corner tile bin, and it's also giving us a picture of where that black tile is going to be located. Don't be alarmed that it's larger than the rest of the pattern brush. Just go ahead and say OK. I'll grab these pieces and move them out of the way, then get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M, and drag out a rectangle. Let's change this to a white fill and a black stroke, and come over to the brushes panel, click on our pattern brush to apply it to the rectangle. Then I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and click on the artboard to deselect that. And here we have a really nice black corner that fits seamlessly with the rest of the design. Now I'm going to select the rectangle and select these pieces here and delete them. And I'll move on to the 9th way to customize or make a change to your pattern brush. And that is to change the baseline of the pattern brush. So I'm going to get the ellipse tool, keyboard shortcut L, and click on the artboard to open the ellipse dialog box and type in 6 inches for the width, tab down and type in 6 inches for the height, and say OK. Let's pull this up in the center of the artboard, and then I'm going to move to the Properties panel, and let's give this a black stroke so we can see where it is. Then I'm going to move over to the Layers panel and unhide a layer of text. Then move to the Brushes panel and apply our pattern brush to the circle. And right away I have a problem because my pattern brush is covering over part of my text, which means that part of the pattern brush is inside of that 6-inch circle. The reason this happens is Illustrator places the center of the design along the stroke rather than placing it along this outer edge. And that's why I've ended up with a pattern brush that's partially covering my text. If you need the exact size of your object and you need the pattern brush to be aligned to the outer edge, we can do that by creating a bounding box that tells Illustrator what to do. So let me select both of these. I'll move them over to the side and show you how to do that. I'll select our design, hold down the Option key and drag out a copy, and then hold down the Option key to drag out one more copy. I'm going to hold the Shift key down so I drag in a vertical line. When I see the word intersect, that's Smart Guides helping me out here. I'll release my mouse and take my hand off of the keyboard. I'm going to click on the artboard to deselect this design, and I'm going to create a bounding box. Now, the bounding box is an invisible rectangle that goes behind the design. So I'll get the rectangle tool, keyboard shortcut M. I'm going to remove the fill color, and we don't have a stroke, so we're good there. I'm going to start at the top left anchor and drag down, and this has got to be exact, so I'm looking for the bottom right anchor, and I'll release my mouse. Then to move the bounding box behind the design, I'll use the keyboard shortcut Shift Command left bracket. Now I'll get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, and the last thing I'll do is select the bottom design and press the delete key. Now I have a bounding box which is twice as high as the design, and we're going to use this entire piece to create a new pattern brush. So I'll move over to the brushes panel, come down to this bottom bar and click on New Brush. We'll choose Pattern Brush, say OK. I'm going to name this Green Brush 2 and say OK. So now when Illustrator takes my pattern and it lines the middle up with the stroke I apply it to, it's measuring the center from the height of the bounding box, which turns out to be the bottom of my design. So let's select our circle. I'm going to come over and apply Green Brush 2. We now have a pattern brush that is lined up on the outside of the stroke, and I have the full 6 inches of my circle to do whatever I want to with. Illustrator has still centered that design, but remember the design is now twice as high as the part we can see. So this dark edge right here is what is lined up around that 6-inch circle. And that's how you change the baseline of your pattern brush. And let me just show you one other thing quickly. I'm going to delete the text, delete the design. Let's move this over here to the right, and then I'm going to show you how the flip across will work here. I'll double click the pattern brush and choose Flip Across and say OK, and click Apply to Strokes. And once again, Illustrator has lined up the design along the stroke, but we've flipped it to where it's lined up on the inside. I'm going to undo that, keyboard shortcut Command Z, and move on to our 9th way to customize our pattern brushes, and that's by adding special effects. So I'm going to come up to Effect, and right off you see a lot of different choices. Some of these are going to work well with a pattern brush, others are not going to work so well. Let me just show you a couple, and then you can experiment with these on your own. I'll go down to Distort and Transform, over and down to Zigzag. And this is a pretty cool look right here, but you can make changes by just clicking on the various options. That looks kind of nice too. You can increase the size. And as you increase the size, you are going to notice that you have some overlap, and that may make a difference between the choices that you make. But you'll have fun playing with this. Let's move back here to about 5 and move back to the point 14 here. And I'm going to say OK. So that's one option. Then I'm going to undo this effect. I could either use the keyboard shortcut Command Z, or I can move over to Properties. And right here in the Appearance panel, we see the zigzag effect. I'm just going to come over to the trash can and delete it. For this next one, I want to remove the fill color on this circle, and then I'll go up to Effect, down to 3D and Materials, over and down to Inflate. And we get a really nice look here with Inflate. I'm not even going to change any of these values. I'm just going to close out of here and click on the artboard to deselect the circle. So you can spend all day just playing with effects, but this is the 9th way for you to customize your pattern brush. Well, I'll select the circle and delete it, and then move on to the 10th way to customize your pattern brush, and that's to change its tint. To show you how this works, I'll move to the Brushes panel, and I'm going to double click on our Green Brush 2 pattern brush to open up the Pattern Brush Options dialog box. And the only change I'm going to make is the colorization method, and I'll click on this little pull down menu and change from None to Tints and say OK. Then I'll get the paintbrush tool, keyboard shortcut B, and I'll drag out another wavy line, and Illustrator applies the design, but the color is nothing like the Green Brush 2 that I selected. I'll move back to the Properties panel so I can explain why this happens. Whenever Tints is chosen as the colorization method, Illustrator is going to apply the pattern brush to our stroke, but instead of using the colors in the original pattern brush, it's going to change each of the colors to various tints of whatever the stroke color is. But if I get the selection tool, keyboard shortcut V, select the pattern brush, move over to the properties panel and click on the stroke color icon and change the color to red, I end up with different tints of red. If I change to blue, I'm going to have tints of blue. If I change to purple, I'll have tints of purple. And I can continue to change this all day long. And that's the 10th way that you can customize and change your pattern brush. I'll click on the artboard to close out the panel and go back to the brushes panel and double click here again. And I'll go back to the pull down menu, and there's also an option for tints and shades and hue shift. You can click on the light bulb for more information. For me, the only two that I ever use are none or tints. I'm going to go ahead and say OK and back out of this. And that completes our 10 different ways to customize your pattern brush. Now in the next video, I'm going to go into greater detail on how to create a very specialized outer corner tile. So be sure and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss notification about that video or any of my future tutorials. And I'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye now.